This is the Aunty M Brain Tumours talk show. It's a show full of informative chat and inspirational messages. The Aunty M Brain Tumours talk show on podcast. Welcome on Aunty M Brain Tumours talk show. We have a interview with Carol Vaughan. She is based in California. She had a brain tumour, so she's going to explain the journey that she's gone through. Hi, Carol.
I'm here.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
I'm really glad that you said you will speak to us. Tell us about your brain tumour.
It all started when I had back surgery. So I was driving up to San Francisco to see the back surgery doctor up there. And I used to get nauseous and vomiting when I would drive long distances. That's the first thing I noticed. I had a couple of spells at home, either at home and also at work. I would fall down. I fell down several times at work. I fell down at home on the patio. And at first I didn't put it together at all. I didn't even think of that brain tumor. My husband even thought when he saw me at home on the patio that I had laid there for quite a while. I don't even know how long it was because luckily my cat, strangely enough, to wake him up in order for him to come and find me and pick me up off the ground. I was just out of it. I was awake, knew what was going on, but I couldn't get up. My husband came out and picked me up off the patio. He said, "There's something wrong with you. You need to go get checked, go to the doctor." He thought maybe it could be a blood clot or something, but then I don't know. It was just a couple days later is when I went to the courthouse for jury duty. And when I left, I went down the ramp to go to my car. I had a problem with going down slopes like that because it happened to me several times before. They weren't as steep as that, but I would go down this slope and I would think, why can't I get my balance here? This is weird. And all of a sudden, that ramp was real steep. I just went down it, and all of a sudden, then I realized that I'm going to fall. And I fell, broke my glasses, and luckily some people there helped me, and they called the ambulance and got me to the emergency room at the local hospital there. And I was in and out of consciousness. I wasn't really aware, but I didn't know exactly what was happening. But they took me in and did a CT scan. My husband's cousin and his wife were my emergency contact people because my husband was very difficult to get a hold of at work. So Ron and Linda came and into the emergency room, and they said, "You have a brain tumor." I remember them telling me that, but I don't remember much after that. I went unconscious. I went in a coma. My husband had to be called. He saw the neurosurgeon. The neurosurgeon told my husband I was unconscious, that the tumor was going crazy. The neurosurgeon thought it was cancer. That's what he immediately thought of. It was cancer. I had to have 2 craniotomies because I had brain swelling. And so I had 2 craniotomies.
How long were you in the coma?
It was something like 11 or 12 days. I couldn't talk and I couldn't move my right side. And so I couldn't communicate with anybody that was coming into the ICU with me at all. So I couldn't ask them any questions, or I just saw them.
Did you know who they were? Did you know where you were?
This happened in 2008. I don't remember a lot, but my husband was very thankful and grateful that I finally woke up, and he held my hand and practically cried there. And I guess he and my daughters, when they went home that night, when I was having the emergency surgery, emergency craniotomy, that the doctor didn't think I would live till the morning. And they prayed, all 3 of them, my husband and my 2 daughters, all prayed for me. And God saved my life. That's all I can say.
Did you need help with rehabilitation?
It was physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. I had all 3.
I went to rehabilitation for exactly the same as you. And I remember not being sure as to whether I was going to be fixed when I first got there. Because for my speech, I wasn't sure how much speech do you get back. How did you feel at first from where you were then to where you are now?
In the rehab hospital, my husband kept asking the speech therapist, he says, why can't she talk? Because I still was not talking as much as I should, like
Mm.
normal. And we figured it was just because of the tube that they had in my throat,
Oh.
because it was in my throat for 11 or 12 days, and it affects your voice
Mm.
and your hoarse and all that.
What were the problems that you had physically?
The paralysis had pretty much gone away. I still have some, even today, years after the surgery, I still have some neuropathy below my knee into my foot on my right leg. And I still have the two small fingers of my right hand. Those are kind of numbish,
Mm.
but the neuropathy bothers me, especially in my leg and foot.
How was your scar and things? Did everything heal?
The neurosurgeon that I had at that time didn't put my bone flaps back into my head. I guess that's something that they do now, but found out that neurosurgeon was old school, which is not a good thing. He was elderly. He was almost 70 years old. He really shouldn't have been operating on people, but he put my bone flap back in about, I don't know, I'm just guessing, 3 weeks after I got home from the rehab. And I had to put two bone flaps back in. After I had that surgery, it took a couple months and I realized something isn't right here, and that my scalp wouldn't heal. It was still black or brown, and that's just not normal. And so I kept going to him, and he didn't even say anything at the first, but later on, as time went on, I said he didn't say the actual word or what the term that they call it, but he had me go into a CT scan at my local hospital, and he suspected that I had an infection in the bone flap. Then I got sent to a plastic surgeon. I went to plastic surgeon in December of 2008 is when I first saw him. I'm still going to him because I've had so many problems with the bone flap and had it taken out. They had to take the bone flap out in January of 2009. And then I was stuck with no bone flap, and he put a skin graft on my head. And so I had that several times over the last 7 years. And
So they do skin grafts. Is that what they do when every time you go, you have to have a skin graft and then they.
I can't even count how many I've had. I've had most of them taken from my left hip, left thigh. I've had 5 or 6 skin grafts. And then I also had muscle grafts. I had 3 of those taken also. And that's because all these infections that I'd had.
It must have been disheartening. You've had to keep going back and you're hoping they're going to figure this out. I can imagine your faith must have really been a part of keeping.
If I wouldn't have had God in my life, I don't know what I would have done, because it was very discouraging after all these. It seems like nothing went right. Everything went wrong. And so it's just very discouraging.
In November 2010, you had a seizure. Was that your first seizure?
That was the first seizure I had ever had. They kept giving me the medication to prevent seizures while I was in the hospital and also afterward. And I was on one. I was allergic to that. So then I went to another one. And then I went to a neurologist, and he wanted to change me from that one to another one. And anyway, I had never had a seizure at that point. This was in spring 2009, summer 2009. I thought, I haven't had a seizure. So I gradually tapered myself off with the Keppra. Then about a year and a half, out of the blue, I had this seizure in November 2010, and it was a grand mal. It was a real big one. I went unconscious for about 15, 20 minutes. Luckily, my husband was home. Usually he's at work by that time in the morning, like 5:15 in the morning. And it was his day off. So he helped me. He said there was a little drainage or whatever from my mouth. That time I dislocated my shoulder. I didn't realize it until I went into the living room for a while, and then I said, my right shoulder is dislocated. Went back to the bedroom and told him, I said, he said, okay, we'll have to go see the doctor. I wasn't going to go to the emergency room because it was only a couple hours till the doctor opened up. Because it was so badly dislocated, I felt nothing. Now I still have problems with it because I can only go so high.
Were you then starting to look for support and groups and looking for somewhere to give you some kind of understanding of what you've gone through?
A relative told me about meningiomas, and I got in touch with them. It's online. And so basically the only thing I have is brain tumor groups, either online or on Facebook.
There's many bad things about Facebook. That was one of the best things about Facebook was the groups.
Yes.
Because
that always helped me.
And because we are all around the world, there's someone awake all 24 hours. So you can always find somebody to talk to.
Somebody, if it's here, like UK is 8 hours ahead of us, and I may pose a question and somebody else will answer it from another part of the world. And so it's always different. Nice to have that.
Thank you so much that you've been sharing your story with us, to know that there's other people out there that have gone through the same thing. You're not on your own, because it can feel like a very lonely journey.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I don't feel alone.
No. Thank you so much for speaking to us. This is the Aunty M Brain Tumours talk show. It's a show full of informative chat and inspirational messages. The Aunty M Brain Tumours talk show on podcast.